Hey everybody, welcome back to Tanner's Books and Beyond and day 40 of VEDUS, the final day! I can't believe I've made it this far, though I do have to admit that I am kind of glad that after this I can go back to my regular vlogging schedule of once a month. Okay, maybe I'll pick up the pace a little bit after this still. Anyways, as I mentioned yesterday, I am doing a Star Wars book tag video today. Specifically, this is the May the 4th Be With You book tag, which I was tagged in by the first chapter 7 months ago on May the 4th. I'm pretty sure the idea was that I was supposed to do this in May. Okay, well, you know what? It's still a Star Wars book tag. This is a very Star Wars-y time period, considering Last Jedi is out tomorrow. I guess it's all gonna work out. Also, all of the questions in this tag are based off of quotes from the Star Wars movies, and I thought I'd put my own little spin on these by, instead of saying the original quotes, I'm going to say the quotes from William Shakespeare's Star Wars. So we got a little bit of that Shakespeare in here one last time before we close the book on VEDUS. From The Clone Army Attacketh, Act 4, Scene 2, Line 90. Anakin. The men, though, could not hope to satisfy my sick bloodthirsty soul, which needed more. So I killed I all, the women, children, I bathed the lot of them in filth and gore. They are like animals fit for a feast, and I did bring to slaughter every one. My soul doth fester like a raging beast. From hate to greater hate, mine heart doth run. Number 1. Name a cold-blooded killer. Now, I can't actually name the killer for this question because my answer comes from Every Hearted Away by Shayna Maguire. I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's this book about the kids who went to the fairy tale lands and now they've come back and are trying to deal with shit. At the school that the main character goes to, people have started dying and there is a really violent killer on the loose. I'm not gonna spoil who the killer is, but let's just say that once we find out who it is, aw shit, they are cold as hell. I was completely shook. I was terrified of the character, especially in hindsight, thinking of all the other stuff they did in this book. So it's a really great book with a really good reveal of who the killer is in here. I'd highly recommend it. And hey, at least Anakin had some guilt about it after he killed the Sand People. The perpetrator in this book, they give no fucks. They are totally fine with everything they have done. From The Force Doth Awaken, Act 2, Scene 2, Line 109. Rey, the garbage shall suffice. Pray, let us go. Number 2 is a book you thought was absolute trash, and the answer for this one is the only book I keep on my shelves because it's such a perfect hot mess, and that is Eve and Adam by Michael Grant and Catherine Applegate. This book, I've mentioned this one a lot too, just because it is so infamous on my shelves and in my opinion. Characters make no sense, the plot doesn't really make any sense, the symbolism is so ham-fisted, I was laughing at it even though I was supposed to be taking it really seriously. It's absolute garbage. 0 out of 10, would definitely recommend. From Verily a New Hope, Act 5, Scene 1, Line 50. Han Solo. Well, thou worthy lad! But be thou not too full of pride and joy. When battle's won, then mayst thou boast indeed, but none e'er boasted yet who bested were. So number 3 is to name an arrogant character, and here's the thing, almost every single book I have back here has an arrogant character in it. I mean, on the upside, they either learn not to be as arrogant, or they get their comeuppance because of it, but like, there's way too many to pick from. I mean, let's see. Arrogant and sexist, arrogant and dangerous, arrogant and racist, arrogant robots, arrogant amoebas, arrogant dinosaurs, arrogance, 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 lots of arrogance. Oh, so much arrogance. Definitely arrogance, Jane Austen. All this arrogance in Stephen King. Classical Shakespeare arrogance, more racist arrogance, more sexist arrogance, some anti-vampire arrogance, witch arrogance, fairy arrogance, space arrogance. Even in the pile of books I've got down here for the rest of the tag, there's so much arrogance. Arrogance! It's the foundation that literature is built on. From The Jedi Doth Return, Act 4, Scene 3, Line 72. Admiral Ackbar. O knavery most vile, O trick of empire's basest wit, a snare, a ruse, a ploy, and we the fools. What great deception hath been plied today? O rebels, do you hear? Fie, 'tis a trap! Number 4 is the biggest plot twist, and I definitely have to go with the Wicked and the Divine for this one. Okay, this is technically just the first omnibus of them, so it's the first 12 issues, but like by the end of this, I was screaming. And in fact, by the end of every single arc, I've been screaming at this comic. By the end of every single issue in this past arc, I was screaming. That's how much plot twist there is. And I just picked up the Christmas special today, which I haven't read yet, but I'm sure even though this is supposed to be a light, fluffy break from all the madness, it's still gonna have some kind of crazy development that leaves me gasping for air by the end of it. From The Tragedy of the Sith's Revenge, Act 5, Scene 2, Line 53. Padme. Who is this who doth speak with tongue like knife? I tell thee truly, I know not thy name. Mine heart is broken by thine alteration. This path thou followest is not mine to walk. So number 5 is the saddest couple breakups, and I've realized that for most of my books, they really only come in 2 flavors. Either a breakup that you're really happy about because one of the persons was absolute garbage, or a sad couple breakup that happened because one of them died. died. So I don't think that counts. But I did manage to find one genuinely sad breakup. It's from If You Could Be Mine by Sarah for Reason. It's the breakup between Sahar and Nazreen. It's not a spoiler, it happens fairly early on. It's what sets the plot in motion. But it's really sad because it takes place in Pakistan. Editor's note, it actually takes place in Iran, and I am a doofus. And these two girls have been together in secret for almost their entire lives, and all of a sudden Nazreen is... well, it's not quite a breakup, but it's basically Nazreen saying, I'm marrying a man now, I'm just keeping you as my side piece. And it's one of those situations where you can logically understand why it has to happen, but emotionally it's such a punch to the gut, and Sahar is completely taken aback and really emotionally devastated. Now, over the course of the novel, they both go through some significant character development, and so it does kind of change how the breakup can be viewed by the end, but it's written so that you are meant to feel for both characters, especially Sahar, and I was really distraught that they had to break up because of this, and it was a genuinely sad scene at that point in the novel. Alright, now the quote for question number 6 is, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind!" Spoken by Chirrut Imwe from Rogue One, and Rogue One does not have a Shakespeare play for it. At least not yet. Desher, please tell me you're working on the Rogue One Shakespeare play. I want to read that now. Anyways, question number 6 is to name a book that you were happy going into blind, and I've got 2 entries for this actually. We've got The Reader by Tracy Chee and This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab, and both of these I knew almost nothing about when I started reading them. I mean, The Reader I bought almost solely because of the cover, and This Savage Song I got mainly because I heard people saying it was good, but I never actually looked at the plot synopsis. I just thought, you know what? I really need to read some Victoria Schwab at some point in my life. And I chose both of those for the same reason, which is that they both have really good, really unique world building, and I think that was an advantage when I was reading them, that I didn't know anything about the kind of worlds they were going to build. I think it is a factor that when I read books and I know the kind of world they're trying to build, I'm waiting for them to explain X, Y, and Z, because I've heard that this thing is supposed to happen in the book, so I'm just waiting for the train to arrive at that station, essentially. But with these two, I had no idea what kind of world was going to be built, and so everything felt much more natural to me just because it all kind of fell into place naturally. I wasn't looking out for the pieces and parts that I knew were supposed to be in the novel at some point. I could just sit back and relax and let it all hit me at once. From The Tragedy of the Sith's Revenge, Act 1, Scene 1, line 416. Anakin: "You, General Grievous, are far smaller than I did expect from what few tales I've heard. They did give tell of one most like a Titan, yet now I see you are a puny droid." So number 7 is a book that took way shorter to read than expected, and my entry for this one is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I tore through this book, and you know, maybe it helped that I was on vacation, but let's be real, when I was on vacation, I spent a lot of time with family and talking and visiting and catching up. I didn't think I was going to end up having that much time to read during that trip, but I had this book and I could not take my eyes off it. I excused myself from the other family meeting so I could go finish reading this. I mean, this is a 400-page book, and usually it takes me like a week or so to get through those, but no, I just tore through this. It was that good and I liked it that much. So yeah, this is a really good express read for me. From The Empire Striketh Back, Act 5, Scene 3, line 138. Darth Vader:
"No, I am thy father."
It's pretty much the same as it was in the movie. So number 8 is a book with a great family dynamic. That really does not describe the Skywalker family that well. That is not a good family dynamic. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. But you know who does have a great family dynamic? The Song family, from To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. All 3 Song sisters and their dad, and even their mom, who died before the story began, actually. They all have such a good dynamic with each other. They sound like a genuine family. Like, you see all the points where they genuinely care for each other. You see all the points where they bicker and they're really mad at each other, and all of the drama and angst that you would expect from a regular family is there and present alongside all of the heartwarmingness and even just the really mundane stuff. Everything and everyone works so well together in the narrative, and so it makes for a really strong family dynamic, and I really appreciate that. From The Tragedy of the Sith's Revenge, Act 3, Scene 4, line 152. "Thy meek subservience I do embrace, as if thou wert the match to mine own heart. The force is strong with thee, good Anakin, and thou a Sith impressive shalt become. Henceforth thou shalt be called a different name, a name that shall inspire both dread and fear in all who hear it uttered. Rise, Darth Vader." And number 9 is the best villain, and I found a few good villains here. One of them I'm actually saving for the next question. For this question, I'm going with Palpatine. Like, the Palpatine in the William Shakespeare Star Wars series is so much better than the one in the movies. I mean, the one in the movies is alright, but it is hard to go along with him when there's all the other ridiculous from the first 3 movies that he's in. But in the prequel plays enhance so many good aspects of the trilogy. And so Palpatine becomes much more clear in his strengths because he's a master manipulator. He is an excellently evil politician, and he's just purely cruel Sith. He's everything that we could have wanted from the prequels that we never quite got, but here it is fully fledged, it's fully fleshed out. I really dig it. I loved reading the Palpatine stuff in the Shakespeare plays, especially the prequels. So yeah, that's Palpatine through and through, as long as Desher is writing him. From the tragedy of the Sith's revenge, gosh, there's been a lot of Revenge of the Sith quotes in this one. From the tragedy of the Sith's revenge, Act 5, Scene 2, line 189. Obi-Wan. Thou wert the chosen one, who should destroy the Sith, not join their frightful company. Thou shouldst have brought new balance to the Force, not leave it underneath a veil of dark. So this one is a good character gone bad, and for this one I'm going with Nos 4A2 by Joe Hill, and I'm highlighting the children who are kidnapped by Charles Manx. I want to talk about the way they're turned evil, because it's really interesting. Basically, there's all these kids across the book that get kidnapped by this evil soul-sucking vampire named Manx, and he takes them to his little pocket dimension in another plane of existence, and he drains them of everything until all that's left is their innocence. And you might think that isn't so bad, because children are innocent, right? But if they're only innocent, they have nothing else. Innocence is ignorance. A child who only knows innocence rips the wings off a butterfly because they think it's funny to watch it flop around. They don't know any better. They have no morals, they have no guilt or any emotion. They just think that whatever they do is it's fun, and that makes them absolutely terrifying. And that's the May the 4th tag, and that's the end of VEDUS. It's over, oh, okay, let's be fair, it's not quite over, because obviously I'm going to be doing a vlog tomorrow when I get back from Star Wars, but it's finally here, everything's finally happening, we're gonna find out what goes on, we're gonna find out whether, like, Luke is gonna survive till the end of the movie, or if Kyle Ron is actually the kid of Han and Leia, or maybe he was just a replacement who got brainwashed. Is Snoke a pair? Are the Porgs just a bunch of Jar Jars in a suit? We don't know. We're gonna find out tomorrow. So, until next time, I'll see you all later.